Okay, so the last skill that I want to teach, I call it making tough choices. Okay, so this is when you are standing at the fork in the road and you're deciding whether to approach to take approach A or point A, or to right approach B, which is point B lah, for example. Okay, so in essays, right, you realize that this is actually the reason why people don't really do well for econs. And when people don't do well, they really can don't do well, meaning they can get S and U lah, right? And the reason why, if that happens to you, is because sometimes your essays may hinge on one or two very very high stake decisions, right? So I'll tell you later what it means, but what I'll say is this: when you're at a fork in the road and you need to make these kind of high stake decisions, the first thing you want to do is you don't rush it. You don't want to look at the person beside you and say, why is this person writing already and I still haven't started writing yet? Because you really make sure you choose the correct thing, and that really under the stress and in the information that's provided to you, you make the best call, right? It may still be the wrong call, but you got to make sure that it's your best. Okay, so I want to show you one question to highlight this point, right? And so this is the question I took from the WA2 essay, right? So this is the WA2 essay, and then they say, can you explain two sources of market failure in the market for education? So I don't really remember this, but you can just pause the video if you don't remember it, just to try and recall it. So this is the WA2 essay. So WA2 essay, we gave people options. So two essay questions, you just need to choose one. So most people chose this, right? So if you're a person that didn't choose this, you can take your time, just pause the video and read the question. Okay. So why is this? Why do I use this question to teach you this making tough choices point? So I've already said this. So 10 marks, there's 10 plus 0. There's two requirements, R1 and R2. So the correct source, because they asked for two sources, so the correct source of market failure is positive externalities, right? And the second source of market failure is actually imperfect information, right? So if you read the WA2 Marcus report, you will know that some students did not write these 2 points. Instead, what they wrote, which was wrong, they wrote asymmetry information, or they wrote factor immobility, which was a little bit more common, right? So imagine, right, you write factor immobility. No matter how well you write it, right, you will not do well because you've chosen the wrong path. This is what I mean by you're standing at the fork in the road and you need to make sure you choose the right call. Okay, so if that happens to occur to you, what do you do? The first thing, I feel sometimes if it's helpful, okay, I say if helpful because sometimes it's not. It makes you panic more. So if helpful, it's sometimes helpful to lay out your options first. So instead of rushing to say, hey, why don't I write factor immobility? Why don't you say, this doesn't feel right, right? If this doesn't feel right, why don't I lay out all my options first? So for example, I can say, let's list out all the market failures, right? So there's externalities, there's imperfect information, there's public good, there's factor immobility, and there's asymmetry information, right? So I got 5 sources of market failure. Then you say, okay, which one is the one that, the way I do it is, I kill off options, right? So what my GP teacher used to teach me, so he said that, if it's something that you feel is very unlikely for you to do, you cross it out. So you can choose by elimination. So you say, okay, I don't think it's a public good, right? Definitely. So you just cross it out. Right. I also don't think it's asymmetry information. Then you cross it out. Then you say, okay, I think it's externalities. So I'm going to choose this. Then you say, okay, between this and this, which is more likely, and then you choose. So that if you do decide to choose this, which is wrong, at least you chose it being aware of this. Then in that case, I don't think there's anything wrong for decision making. It's just that you need to practice more to realize that this is actually the correct one, right? Okay, so what's the thing I want to teach people here? It's not that every time it's 2 sources of market failure, it's always these 2. That's not what I'm trying to teach. What I'm trying to teach you is to learn to make good decisions, right? And the way to make good decisions is you lay out your options first. Okay, so for the more stronger econ students, you realize it is so simple, obviously it's a red color one because I studied so much, the red color stuff occurs to me naturally. then to you I say good for you. I really mean that, right? Because you want to study to the extent where this comes naturally. That is the ideal state. Okay, so I started with a simple example, but you can go on to something that's a little bit more challenging, right? So this is part B of the same essay question, right? This is a part B. So I didn't put a mark allocation here, but it's 15. Yeah. So 15 is 10 plus 5, and they ask you to discuss policies. It's in plural. So R1 will be policy 1. R2 will be policy 2. Right? Okay, then you need to come up with the policy yourself, right? What are the policies you should use to correct the market for education? Now it's not that simple, right? Right. So what again, if you're trying to come up with a policy, then how do you even know what's the best policy to write? So to me, it's not clear which is the best policy until you lay out all your options. So why don't you start by laying out all the policy options? So maybe you have tax, subsidy, let's see what else, regulation, campaigns, yeah, what else do we have? Direct provision, and so forth, but probably others. Okay, so then you say, okay, then I choose, okay, so this can't be it. Then you say, okay, which one is the most bulletproof one I can write? So you say, maybe I choose subsidy, right? Okay, if I choose subsidy, which one should come next? Then you say, between these, I don't know which one to choose. Then you say, okay, but then I remember my teacher said that if one policy solves one market failure, so this solves externality, I should have a policy that solves imperfect information. Then you realize, actually campaigns are the best one. So then you choose these two. Right. So what happened during the WA2 was that a lot of students tended to choose this direct provision, and then they chose subsidies also. So I think for most people, the comment would be that these two choices are kind of the same, and that's why people get deducted marks. Right. So then your question you ask yourself is this: did you choose this being aware that number 4 existed? Right. Then if you didn't know that number 4 existed, actually laying out your options can help you solve this problem lah. Yeah, so that you pick the right policies. Okay, so this one I know is very obvious. The previous question, most people can see this very naturally. So no problem, good for you. But for this one, you can see already, it's not that easy to see which one's the best policy. And actually, sometimes laying your options really helps a bit, right? Because if you make the right choice, like what I said, your grade will change. Okay. The last one I want to talk about is again another tough choice kind of thing, but it's a bit different lah. So this is a CSQ question, okay, because that's why I say marks. But I really can't find another question that best illustrates my point, right? So I said that if helpful, lay out your options first. That's one possible way to decide. The other quick way, again, is something my GP teacher said to me last time, which is when you don't understand something, you need to read the thing over and over again until you feel comfortable enough to make the decision. Okay, so what I mean by this? So let's say we have this question here. I stress again, this is a CSQ question, okay? But it helps me illustrate my point. Okay, so this question is a WA2 CSQ question. They ask you to discuss whether a ban on motorcycle use is appropriate in improving allocative efficiency in Vietnam. Okay, so just like in essays, there are 2 points in this, right? So you could say that the first way to approach this is to say ban is good and ban is not good. Right, so this is option number 1. Option number 2 would be to say that ban is good, but tax is better. So there are 2 possible approaches here, approach 1 and approach 2. How do you know which is the correct approach? right? So some people in the WA2 wrote this. They wrote about taxes, right? So then it's not correct, right? So how do you want to make sure that you really make the correct choice and you choose this option number one instead? So you read the question over and over again, right? So they asked you to discuss whether a ban on motorbike use is appropriate. Discuss whether a ban on motorbike use is appropriate. The question doesn't seem to have any mention of other policies. Neither does it say which is the best policy. The operative word whether is applied to the word appropriate. So what you need to flip is appropriate. You need to flip the ban. Right? So if you flip the word appropriate, then you say ban is appropriate and ban is not appropriate. So option one is the correct choice. Again, read the question again and again until you feel comfortable enough to make that decision so that you go in with eyes wide open. Okay, so this is what I want to say about making tough choices. Okay, choose the right point so that you get the right structure. Okay, so last point I want to mention. So in essays, your grade will hinge on one or two high-stake decisions. Sometimes it just happens sometimes. You need to choose the right policy, you need to choose the right topic and so forth. So when in doubt, please don't rush. Okay, I know it's tough to not tell you not to rush, and at the same time I tell you to have urgency because you don't have a lot of time for essays, right? But you need to think. The way I tell myself last time was you think slow, but write fast. Not the other way around. You don't think fast and write slowly. No, you write fast, right? But you think slowly, you think carefully, right? So if helpful, you can lay out all your options first, right? So you say, okay, I'm gonna choose the two best policies, so that whatever I write, I get maximum bang for buck, right? So if that helps you, you lay out all your options first. Say, hey, what are all my available options in terms of the policies that I can write, or in terms of the market failures that I can write. And then read the question. And then if this doesn't help you again, for you to make the decision, you read the question again and again, right? So what I did just now was I said, okay, discuss whether a ban is appropriate. So the whether applies to appropriate. So I know I need to choose option one. Right? So read a question again and again until you feel comfortable enough to make the decision and then make it.